all of your projects, obviously web mobile, um, with internet connections, Empowa with housing, and then you with health and single moms and stuff like that. Like this is the essence of Web3, and I think that's why blockchain will never go away because people are in need and will be in need in the future.
ECC, Fireside chats
Hello, and thank you for joining our Fireside chats with founders at the European Cardano community. I am Marcus, one of the core team members, and if you like what we are doing, please consider supporting our individual projects. You will find the links to our guests and our projects below the video. Please give us a thumbs up, follow us by hitting the bell icon, and let's enjoy this session.
Perfect. Hello. Welcome everybody to another edition of the European Cardano Community Fireside Chat. This is the latest edition, then we take a little break for the summer, but we will be back stronger again after just a few weeks. I'm very excited for the guest tonight because there is a great friend of mine that is here as well to speak about this project. This is one of the most important projects in our ecosystem, but we'll have time to talk about it. Let's start with showing the slide. This is the same slide that we use normally in the global town hall that we had every Wednesday. But to make the things a little bit more complicated, we decided to translate each line in a different language spoken in the European community. So usually we use it to read that together with the guest, but that was really too much of a mess. So just take a look, take a screenshot if you want, and as we move on to the second slide, that is also the second mantra. This is a special mantra that is specific to us, to the European Cardano community. It's a little bit more technical and precise, and the author is Marcus with us. Also, before starting with our guest, we want to remember everybody that we host Twitter Spaces in different languages spoken in Europe. We have regular spaces in English every second Sunday. We'll also have a break for the next one. This called the Late Night Unicorns, and it's very interesting because it's very specific about marketing and starting new projects and enterprises in the Cardano ecosystem. Until now, we had wonderful guests. So we'll keep going on in that direction. We'll also have a very constant space in German right now.
Yes, that is every second week or every other week. And we are also currently in the summer break. It's called Unternehmerfrühstück, which is translated to entrepreneurial breakfast. And we talk all things business, not necessarily only related to Cardano, but just how a founder's life can be. And we share experiences all across the board. And it's very concise, limited to 30 minutes during the day, 11:30 from 11 to 11:30 on Thursdays. See you there.
Great one. In the past, we also have a plethora of different languages spoken in spaces like Spanish, like Bulgarian. And we hope to increment our reach. So if you have any friends who want to have a space sponsored by us with the last remaining funds that we had from Catalyst, there is small contribution for the hosts, please get in touch with us and we'll make it happen very gladly.
And that's a great point. Catalyst is coming sooner than later, and you need to have us on your voting list.
Yeah. And please speak to your direct because it's very important for Catalyst to have the voted required for the new governance system. So we can't have Catalyst if the proposal doesn't pass. So please speak with your rep to push these things because it's very important for all new kind of projects. Also, there are very nice changes in the new Catalyst organization that I think they can increment the value of the system. So it's very important to keep bringing innovation inside our chain. But yeah, let's start officially and represent our guest. Usually we have this kind of system where we let every of our guests spoke about the project for a couple of minutes. And then we open the conversation to have a more broadly discussion about whatever we want, like in a friendly way, so that the guests can talk to each other and make the questions, and we can all discuss together what happens here.
Perfect. So roughly 2 to 3 minutes, maximum 5, and then you can always refer back.
Exactly, because we do that back and forth a lot in proceeding with the meeting. So don't worry, there is time to speak about everything. So the first guest is Empowa, something that is very beautiful and happening on Cardano since a very long time. I think 2021.
Yep, I think somewhere on there. It's when we started. So yeah, thank you. So yeah, my name's Glenn Jordan, co-founder of Empowa, and for those of you who don't know us in the system, thanks for this opportunity. Great to see you, friends I know, and new friends. We are involved in affordable housing finance for the financially excluded, with a particular focus on Africa, which is where we come from. I'm a Zimbabwean by birth and upbringing, an economic migrant by experience, and so have experienced the mismanagement of centralized systems firsthand. For those of you who don't know, Zimbabwe went through a real economic, well, is still going through real economic turmoil, hyperinflation, $100,000 trillion for a loaf of bread, etc. So, but across Africa, more than 85% of income is informal. And by that, what that means is that it's intermittent, variable, and unrecorded. More than 85%. And yet we have one housing finance product, and that's a mortgage. And a mortgage requires formality and static income, static payments. So you need to prove who you are, proof of income, and be able to keep that up for 20 years. And then in Africa, the average kind of mortgage rate really runs between 25 and 35%. So you can imagine the challenges for home ownership. And most people assume that actually the housing crisis is because of poverty. And what we have set out to demonstrate is that it's not actually poverty, it's systemic. And if we can address the systems issues through decentralization and through making flexible payments possible, and then being able to make those flexible payments investable, just like a mortgage is investable, and the mortgage instrument becomes an investment interest instrument, or the securitization of that mortgage becomes an investable instrument. So too, we can invest into housing finance. And this is really where we started, and the three stages. So stage one was to demonstrate that people can pay if you allow them to pay variably, which we have successfully proven. Stage two is to demonstrate that we can create investment into this instrument because banks are not doing it and cannot do it because they can only deal with formality. And the third stage is to crowd in investment from international investors in a way that meets their needs while addressing currency risk. And again, we can only use these instruments to do so. So despite the fact that we've been at it for a while, these processes unfortunately are slow, as you can imagine. And we've been able to demonstrate very successfully that people can access home loans. So we've literally increased it from 3% to 60%, as you see there, giving access to 60% of the population. When we started in Mozambique, there were 600 mortgages in a country of 30 million people, which gives you a brief indication of how dysfunctional the banking system is, because there's no way in any society that that's the only element of society that can afford it. But so as you can see from that slide, the impact that we're having is profound, and we're building the data to demonstrate that this works and to make it investable. So the project we're currently busy with is now up with the Nairobi Securities Exchange around creating tokenized investment instruments to be able to invest into these cash flows, so that we can literally directly invest to the developer to provide them with an offtake. So if you can imagine in a traditional environment, if you get a property developer, they sell the property to the individual who gets a mortgage, the bank pays the developer, you as the consumer move into the house, and the developer moves on to the next development, having made a profit on that development. In this environment, because there's no offtake finance, the developer can't develop because there's nobody to buy the product. So what we're doing is we're actually lending to the developer to enable them to provide rent to own. So they can provide a rent-to-own facility to the end consumer. The loan is to the developer, backed by the housing asset and the income stream to make it an asset-backed investment. And so you're able to invest into that. The consumer has the ability to pay flexibly. So they pay a monthly rental, but then can contribute the capital. So effect, for those of you who've ever traveled in the developing world, you'll see half-built buildings everywhere. And that's because people build as they go. So they self-build. So when they get money, they build and then wait until they get some more money. So we're reversing that process and enabling people to move into climate smart houses, climate resilient houses, professionally built up front, and then pay it off on the same kind of basis, flexibly, with a standard rental to cover the costs of that capital, but to be able to save as they go effectively for the capital contributions. So that's the mechanism by which the customer gets access to the home. The developer gets access to the finance so that they can then move on to the next one. So it's then the ability to scale. So already from the 30 homes that we funded, there are now 150 homes in this development in Mozambique, and we're now and we've been given land to build the next 22,500 homes. So this process is beginning to scale in Mozambique. We're active now, very active in Kenya and Nigeria as focus countries, but in about 8 countries across the continent. Hopefully I haven't bored anybody, and look forward to any questions.
Fantastic, fantastic job. Thank you very much. We'll get a lot of questions later, I'm sure. So next guest, as I mentioned in the beginning, is a great friend of mine. His project is so innovative, and we deserve a lot more recognition for what he's doing. Marcus and Wiebke, can you talk us and explain a little better what is your project is about?
Yes, of course. Larissa.Health is about digital assisted midwifery, and we provide data where connection is lost. And we don't separate midwives and technology, but we support the midwives through technology. So that's one very, very important thing. Currently, we have the presentation divided in 3 sections. So I'm going to present first our book development, then Wiebke's turn with the really important things, and then we're going to have a little wrap up. So currently, we have submitted our books to Book.io. The mint announcement internally should be somewhere around next week. Really looking forward to this. So we just have confirmed the design. It's a really good process, by the way. So big shout out to Book.io. So there are 2 books. It's called the Baby Counting Book. There's a supported edition and a printable edition. The printable edition is the more easier one. Both provide access to what we do, while they have a different price tier. And the supported edition gives a little bit more to the whole thing. Both, you can follow that up on our website, provide an additional nice surprise utility. So the supporter edition or the printable edition is roughly 1.4 seconds worth, while the supporter edition is roughly 7 seconds worth. What do I mean by that? If all books are minted out, the book will be available on our website for free. So it will be available 24 hours to read, so that people that don't have the opportunity to, the financial opportunity to buy a book will have the access to. So this is a community-driven approach, and it will fund us as well. And at the same time, it will provide access to the other mints that we will provide, which are in the end will turn out to provide free access for midwives to our service. So by minting the books, by joining our ecosystem, you can provide real value to the app that we are building, and support midwives and pregnant. So that's about that part. Happy to talk about it, and going further into the SDGs.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I have to tell you a little story. Eva Root from the University of Rotterdam told it, and I want to share it. So imagine you have a really huge forest, and somehow it catches fire, and the fire grows and grows and becomes incredibly powerful, and all animals have to flee from the forest. So they can do nothing, just looking through the forest and to see their home is destroyed. And suddenly they see a little hummingbird flies to the river, picks up a drop of water, flies back to the forest and drop it in the fire. So, and he returns to the river and do it again and again. And the animals tell the hummingbird that he's too small and he's really too insignificant, and his actions won't have any effect. And so the hummingbird replies, yeah, maybe I'm too small and insignificant, but I will do the best I can. So change and transmission always start with this individual taking responsibilities. And so if everyone would do the best they can together, they could solve problems extremely powerful. Yeah, it's
That's basically how Web3 comes in.
Yes.
So let's all be hummingbirds and delegate to Birth Stake Pool, because that's basically our life initiated vesting economics with Birth Stake Pool. So what happens here is we introduce, next to the other SDGs 1, 3, 5, 9, 10, and 16, we introduce number 4, which is about education, continuous learning. The book from Book.io is one part. We have separated the Web3 company with an upcoming classic Web2 company that is solely responsible for the app development. This is for compliance reasons. We want to make sure that if something goes wrong on one hand, the other part is not affected, and that you clearly know who you are dealing with. So what does life staking mean in the end? Every midwife-led birth, we want to provide the service for pregnants for free. But if they are working with a midwife, then the midwife will be charged from us for the service, and the midwife can charge the pregnant woman with their service fees. But we use our token to reduce the costs, and you'll be able to participate in that economy through that part, that for every midlife-led birth or pregnancy, we create a new vesting schedule that lasts for about 9 months, and you'll be able to participate in that part. So we release the white paper to that soon. We have we are going to make the snapshot end of this epoch, and the initial supporters that held hands for us for over the longest time now will have additional benefits. I'm really looking forward to that and really grateful. Do you want to add something for the SDGs, Vicky?
Yes, I want to go ahead to the ones we work with and we contribute to. So we have the number 1, it's no poverty. So our economic model provides free support and economic incentives for pregnants and midwives alike. Then we have the number 3, good wealth and well-being. Our app directly addresses maternal health and supporting the reduction of maternal mortality through data access, remote assistance, and continuity of care. And then number 5, the gender equality. We empower midwives as female leaders in maternal health care and ensure and provide the opportunity that every woman, no matter her background, has equal access to reproductive services and support. Then number 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. We build decentralized digital health infrastructure that connects underserved area, drives local innovation, and supports scalable ethical AI models. Number 10, reduces inequalities By bridging the digital divide and offering inclusive tools in multiple languages, we reach marginalized groups and empower local health systems. And the last one is number 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. We foster transparent governance through decentralized decision-making, protect sensitive data via SSI, and promote trust in health systems.
So what we want to do for what blah, 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 blah. So what we want from you is the little recap. Note the book I Owned. Check out our web once ready, or visit us on our Discord, for example. That's probably the easiest. Larissa.Health/Discord, and check out our live staking. Follow us and have fun and enjoy your families. Thank you.
Nice job, guys. Nice job. Very well explained. Thank you. Let's switch to the next guest now, and then we'll be back for a lot of questions, I'm sure, also for Larissa.Health, because it's so innovative. The next guest doesn't need any presentation. Probably you already know everything about it. Together with Empowa, probably they were the first that were being a real-world access company without even knowing the term yet. But let's welcome our friends from World Mobile. I'm sure that there is a lot of hype with that and a lot of information that you can still share. We're waiting for you here in Europe as well.
Hey, good afternoon for myself. Good evening for you guys. It's been great hearing you guys. Glenn, share a lot with your mission. I'm very involved in Kenya. So you might have said, sorry to bore you, but I was like deeply interested because of my participation in what we do in Kenya on a personal level, not with World Mobile. So involved in some orphanages that are in Wachara and Ahero, which are in the Kisumu County, Kenya. But anyways, I'm representing World Mobile today. I'm an official ambassador for World Mobile. And I've had a lot of experience on the ground in real life and seeing things firsthand. And so that's kind of given me a lot of insight into the power of what World Mobile is doing. And it's just like you guys working through a decentralized manner to break barriers that have been set in place that are systemic and so on that are hard to break through without decentralization. And World Mobile is doing that through telecoms and connectivity. And we all need connectivity for this to work. And that's why World Mobile is important. To be able to succeed in everybody's mission here, because you guys are reaching unconnected, hard to reach, kind of forgotten areas, and so we need to be able to connect them, and World Mobile is able to do that. And so that's why we're all here to kind of work together to get this information, get this knowledge, to see how we can work together to build these. Because with World Mobile, you're not built and stuck to legacy infrastructures. You don't need a large, undertaking to install these units, and it empowers the local people. So, you have these host and operator type agreements. So like you could find these communities like Marcus with Larissa.Health, that you have midwives in somewhere in Africa, right? Well, they can get a World Mobile node and then host it, and then they will get paid for hosting that node onto their property, right? And then you get like a reward also for being able to pay and buy that node for them, because they're probably not going to be able to afford to buy it, but they can afford to put it onto their residents and then expand that connection to their community. So now those nodes are able to push that connectivity to the village, to the people around, to the schools and the medical centers and stuff like that have a really hard time staying connected. And I think that's really powerful service to offer. and so that's kind of what I like to be here to talk about, because World Mobile's initiating this large phone plan that's global as well. So now, not only can they be connected, they can be talking on their cell phone, and it's pretty incredible.
I'm really thankful that you covered this part, because when I was in Tunisia, I was asking the taxi driver, why are there so many buildings that are incomplete? And he said exactly what you touched based on. People are taking the money that are there, and it's more, what is the word for it? Rewarding, for a better of a lack of a better word, bad of a lack of word, to have an unfinished building than to finalize the building. Is that right?
It's become almost a cultural thing, correct? In terms of that, but it's emerged because of this self-build culture. So part of it is also demonstrating now that this is just part. It's not the full house, so there's more to come. So it's become a status thing. So there's multiple levels to it now, but it's emerged because of the lack of capability, the lack of access to finance, and the cost of capital. So and the cost of capital is related to the mismanagement of governments. In emerging markets, that's created this, really a currency is a share price effectively of the country, and when the country's not performing, that share price is in declines. It doesn't go up in value, and so in order for that to happen, and again because of the informality, tax collection is very low. So you have so the governments borrow all the time. So there's this constant borrowing to fund resources. So and that then creates this sort of concentric circle downwards. That cost of money is high, so your interest rates are very high, and your currency is depreciating. So nobody wants to invest. So you get this double whammy. You don't get international investment, and there's no local investment. So these kinds of products become very difficult. So, give you an example. I mean, I mentioned Mozambique with less than 600 mortgages, but that's very common. Kenya, where Adam, is, it's the same level of proportion. I think there are about 22,000 mortgages in a country of 55 million people, and that's the third largest economy in Africa. So, just this investment into the sector is so low because banks can take the money and invest it into a government bond risk-free. So they pay you 3%, they can invest it into a government bond at 22%. And they, why should I then go to that hassle of trying to get into this kind of complexity, this kind of market, address it, and then add informality to that where people aren't earning salaries. I can't do a credit assessment on them. I can't do a credit check. It just becomes too complex, which is why it's not happening. So this is the really interesting part. But the other part around it is because of the shortage, and this is the business opportunity side of it. Because of this shortage, people pay a lot of money, even in US dollar terms, for a very poor quality product. So even in Ghana, the houses at the end of the runway in Accra are literally more expensive per square meter than Beverly Hills. And I mean, literally, the airplanes come like literally over your head as they land. That's the kind of pricing that you're talking about. It's very expensive to be poor, but it's very expensive to try and have a decent living condition because of this lack of supply. So the demand outstrips supply significantly. So by addressing this and by solving this problem, it's actually a massive business opportunity. It's just a question of finding the right ways to de-risk it and to demonstrate that it's de-risked, which is the exciting part around what we're doing. Wow. And so you can imagine now what's happening with it's a housing challenge all over the world now. And it's just exacerbated in this part of the world, in the emerging markets, because you've got booming populations. So booming populations, mass urbanization, people moving into the cities. So the pressure on the cities is just, is just massive. So from a just numbers perspective. So then what's there, what infrastructure is there to be able to create this is as you can imagine, is just massive demand and very limited supply. So the opportunity to push capital into this environment in a cost-effective way and to manage that to provide returns is there's a huge growth opportunity there. You know, when you think, I mean, Switzerland's just got what, 0% interest rates again. You know, and when you're talking about the arbitrage opportunity, where if you've got a 22% mortgage, if you can provide a 12% mortgage, that's huge benefit to the customer. You know, it's a massive change for the customer. But that, you know, that's the kind of thing. So we're trying to get it below 10% that we can get it. But if you're getting 10% return on you know, with a hard currency rate, then that becomes highly attractive. So you're not just doing good, but getting good return.
And are you growing into the European markets, or are they less attractive because of how they are currently working? Because they may be more functional, despite the internet that we have in Germany.
Yeah, before you answer, guys, I want to add a little thing that is correlated, because you spoke about Europe for the housing connectivity, and even if in Europe we should have everything covered, we now are experiencing some weird stuff happening because of the housing prices in the major cities, and because of Airbnb and whatever, all the culture thing, all the tourism stuff, and it's becoming very, very hard to buy an house in close to any of the major city here in Italy, for example. And also for mobile, even if I live in the north of Italy, I'm still in a very small village. We have fiber cables that are now deployed here, but we don't have any news about when they will be connected and if they will be connected. So even in the most advanced areas in Italy or in Europe, we can have a lot of interest for both World Mobile services and Empowa for the housing situation.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, and that's good to hear about the Italy getting fiber up there. I know that's been really a big challenge for a very, very long time. But yeah, no, we are World Mobile is going to be in larger cities, rural, anywhere, because even large cities have connectivity issues. Even large cities have major power grid failures and so on like that, and then congestion. So there's going to be opportunity everywhere, because then you're going to have people that are just tired of the main suppliers, and they're going to hear World Mobile come in, and they're going to say, hey, it's actually pretty good. I just want somebody new. You're going to get all kinds of different entries, you know. And so, but yeah, we're big in the world. We're in Africa, many countries in Africa. We're in the Philippines. Soon, but actually, World Mobile just acquired users from a company called Ditto in the Philippines. It's a big deal. They think they have like 13 million customers. That's a big deal that they're getting ready to get into. They're currently have a huge initiative in Pakistan, where there's like 20-something thousand air nodes in Pakistan. We've been in the United States, in Reno, Nevada. We've been connecting the city of Reno for the past couple years now. And then also, and then as we all know from the World Mobile in North Carolina, from the Hurricane Helene disaster response, with Charles Hoskinson getting involved and with his Black Hawk, and my opportunity to go fly in the Black Hawk and get out there and help people. So yeah, we're global, and we got some action growing in Korea also. So yeah, to answer your question, we're going in every direction possible. Los Angeles is also a growing market for us right now. We just launched a huge actual phone service plan. So it's an eSIM. So you're able to purchase a phone line anywhere in the world and be able to use World Mobile phone service. David, you can do it right now. Well, not right now. It's in test market right now for an ambassadors phase, but coming soon, you guys can go and purchase a phone plan. If you go to worldmobile.io, they got 3 different plans. I mean, they got essential United States and advanced United States plans, but then they also have global access plans. And those are all coming soon. So no matter where you are, you can experience World Mobile.
Good, very nice. Thank you for the explanation.
Ye-
And about the housing, do you want to say
Yeah,
something, Glenn?
interestingly enough, you know, the when we talk about informal, a lot of people think, you know, black, or illegal, but that's not what necessarily that's not what we're talking about in Africa. It's just informality. But actually, what we are finding, and we didn't anticipate this, is interest from developed economies, because the gig economies, because so many more jobs are becoming based on the gig economy. So income is also variable. You know, the consultants' jobs are less structured than they used to be. So it's more difficult for individuals or entrepreneurs to get access to home loans. So very much so, we finding it's going to, like prepaid airtime started in Africa and then took over the world. We're actually anticipating this going the same way, actually, that it's coming back. I also think, interestingly enough, to the same extent, for young people, there's also going to be, and they tried it in the UK and it didn't work because it was exploitative. But I think the way we're doing it will also become an opportunity in the developed world, which is part ownership. So right now you've got, you know, lots of investment happening in from a rental perspective, you know, so from buying up from rental stock. So the big players are stepping into that. And then you've got obviously the purchase. But actually, it's blending the two that I think are probably going to happen as we go, as houses become less affordable, particularly for young people. You're going to buy a share in your home, not the home. And I think that's going to become actually more common than we are used to, because from both sides it works, because you're getting the upside from the capital if you're the tenant, but you're also, if you're the landlord, you get the benefit of somebody who's actually looks after the house better, the asset better. So it actually works better from both sides. So we're anticipating that. And a lot of people have knocked on our door, actually. But in terms of the Africa, it's actually just because where we come from and what we know. But absolutely, we've had requests from Asia and South America, as well as Europe. Not so much in the US as yet, but we anticipate that.
Yeah, so all World Mobile comms are encrypted. So I would imagine they do fit certain health guidelines given that encryption. And it does rely on decentralized data storage that World Mobile also provides through their Earth nodes. So that's an avenue there. And yeah, of course, it can definitely support that need. As far as limits go, it's unlimited. You know, just like your carrier would provide. Now, we are bound to national standards, right? I mean, you're operating in their airspace, so there are restrictions that all communications carriers have to abide by, no matter. And every nation varies differently. And so we definitely abide by those things because, you know, it's the law. So we're law abiding in every nation that we operate in. And so that's the hardest part. The biggest barrier to entry is meeting those guidelines and standards because it is encrypted, it is decentralized. You know, so it's a lot to wrap around for a lot of these nations. But it's been very successful because it's a double-edged sword for them because they also want it for their own communications. You know, so there's a lot of governmental interest also. So yeah, I think it would definitely be a great fit for what you guys are doing.
Cool. And then we just need Empowa to help us build clinics at some point, and then we have a wrap. I know you're very focused currently on private properties, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, look forward to it.
Yeah, Glenn, do you mind if I ask a question, David, to Glenn?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
I don't know if you pay attention to our little inside chat right now, but I made a touch when you talk about young people and the population. I don't think people realize how serious that is in Africa because, like I said, I have a bachelor's in international business with a minor of African studies. So how much I love Africa. So the average age in Africa is 19 years old. I mean, that's so young. I mean, that's really young. And the country Nigeria alone is 15 years old for the average age. So if you're Glenn, if you're able to reach this young generation and teach and educate these kids the power of real estate and the power of financial success at a young age, I mean, you'll have a huge hand in changing lifestyle and well-being in Africa.
Adam, it's one of the challenges that we have in the discussions, because everybody's so, in Europe particularly, is used to dealing with the aging population. So the concern is around aging. So everything is geared up for this shrinking society and aging population and looking after the old people and, healthcare for the elderly. And to your point, I read something the other day, for 2050, I think 7 out of the 10 largest cities are going to be in Africa. They're going to be 7 mega cities in Africa. So the numbers are eye-watering, actually. So to your point, and I think and if we look at what happened, the 2 things that we've got to look at. China, one of the things that really stimulated China's growth was its investment into housing, which, of this time period, to house the people, the Chinese people, was a significant investment and did amazing things for their economy, which is what we should be doing. And that's part of what the discussions are saying. It's around job creation. Building a house creates incredible number of jobs, and then ongoing in terms of maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a real job creation. The challenge we have is environment. So that's the key part that we've got to balance, because if we continue, we don't want to repeat what China did and build with concrete and have that impact on the environment. So it's really around trying to encourage, and that we're working really hard on trying to encourage green building standards, green, environmental building standards, carbon sequestration. And that's why we built the first hemp house in Mozambique. So we built it out of hemp. So also from a heat perspective, it manages the heat so much better than concrete. So it's much cooler and it's bio-based, et cetera, et cetera. But all of these things require scale, as you know, and that's the challenge that we've got in terms of that conversation. And all of that depends on overcoming this perception that it's poverty that's restricting people from accessing this. And so the demonstration of what we're doing by demonstrating that people can pay, if you enable them pay as you go instead of contract, as in airtime, for the housing, it's the same. If we just enable flexible payments, that's all it takes. It's just around a bit of flexibility. And I mean, if I show you, every single individual's payment profile is completely different. And that's what's really fascinating, because the mortgage is actually an industrial age product where we treated everybody the same. You'll pay the same amount based on the same interest rate every month for 20 years. That's a monolithic approach, and that's not how life works in Africa. Everybody's got to hustle. Everybody, it's crops this month. It's, family member from the States next month. This is how income comes in, and that's how it has to be reflected, and that's how the infrastructure needs to be. And blockchain is ideally suited for that, because we can provide verified data, immediately, as opposed to waiting for audited financial statements and all these things historically. So all of this kind of stuff, that's the key part around it, to demonstrate that people can and will pay, and then it becomes investable, and then that unlocks the entire process, which is really exciting.
Very, very interesting. Yeah. And it's interesting because in 2011, I wrote an essay about smart cities based on the research or the thesis of Paul Romer. And back then in Germany, nobody believed in that. Now it's getting closer to that. And so really, really fired up by what you're doing.
No, thanks. It's the other day somebody said, "Why is it so slow?" And for us, that's it is our challenge, is that, we were, trust me, we were thinking it was going to be faster, but the housing sector is slow, and that's part of it. But it's also so pent up. So while it's slow, and we're talking also to TradFi, because the real money is in TradFi, the big money. So it's around getting that kind of money to be able to flow into these mechanisms. So we've really been working on that over this time and building the trust in the blockchain, because our first conversations were, the usual, go away. We don't want to speak to you. You're the Antichrist. But as we've gone along, the confidence is building. We're demonstrating success, and those conversations are really starting to happen now in a big way. And that's the really exciting part. So it's been it's been much slower than we had anticipated. I had a full head of hair before I started. Marcus, I can only imagine the pressure you were under.
It was like that long. It was like
so that's been the so literally, I mean, it's been a lot harder and more difficult than we anticipated, but we're pushing through, and we're confident that now it's not linear. Let's put it that way. We're really confident on that it's not linear, it's logarithmic, because it's progressing slowly, but there's no doubt that now starting to bubble under the Adam, to your point, in Kenya, the unrest that's happening in Kenya, the unrest that's happening in Mozambique. Nigeria is making money available for housing now because they've seen what's happening in these countries and going, we can't, it's risky. Arab Spring with young people, there's big potential risks unless we manage this and we give the people. So to your point around job creation, decent housing, we need to start pushing this into the society. Otherwise, we're going to have problems. And I think people are really starting to wake up to this. Even the migrancy, people don't leave home if they've got a home. If you haven't got a home, there's nothing to leave behind. It's easier to leave than it is to stay. And so this, these challenges, nobody wants to leave home. Everybody loves their home. And yet they leave for like I have, for economic reasons. And that's the reality of life. And that's the challenge that we need to also be trying to address.
And here's also another thought. If you're growing and evolving the country, then you have better security standards and you get new vacation opportunities, right? Right now, everybody most people, I would say, from Europe would reconsider twice if they travel to Africa, just because of the security reasons.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And another point is we're working with one of the city councils in South Africa. Even in South Africa, which is obviously the most advanced economy in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, the 70% of the properties don't have title deed.
Mm.
And that's not because, again, that's because of informality. So in the system, the title deed system has been designed in the West. Okay, so it's great. It works. You get lawyers. You pay them vast amounts of money to transfer the title deeds. It goes through. It gets validated, etc., etc. But in an environment where that's unaffordable, when somebody dies, what happens? They don't bother then to transfer the title deed. Everybody knows that it's the eldest son who's inherited the property, so the eldest son carries on. And the next generation. So suddenly you're 3 generations later, and now the city council is trying to collect rates and taxes from this property.
Interesting.
But whose property? So again, then there's resistance to this rates and taxes. So what we're talking to the city council about is saying, if you upgrade the property, because in South Africa, in the township environment, they do backyard rentals. So they rent out land around the house that people build a shack on and pay them rent for that land. As a matter of interest, that land to rent on which you build your own shack costs between 4 and 7 times more per square meter than an apartment in the center of Cape Town.
Wow.
Okay. Again, it just shows you the differentials here from informality to formality. So that you're renting out the land on which people could build their own shack. So what we're saying to the council is, well, if you create infrastructure, so you build proper infrastructure in the backyard. So it's not a just renting out land, but you can go up 2 or 3 stories. You're then giving this person an asset, which is a hugely viable asset. And then you take rates and taxes, you're not taking it out of their pocket. You're giving them extra funding, extra money on a monthly basis, and then you can take some of that back, add in on an ongoing basis. So then you can start to claim your rates and taxes from this investment going forward. So it's a way of including people, but in an alternative way. So these kinds of approaches have to be made to do these kinds of things. Otherwise, we're just going to get these vast sprawls of informal, no non-tax paying, exactly as you say, security issues, etc., etc.
It's, by the way, the same way how we argue here in Europe with digital approaches, because when you hear, okay, the same thing, blockchain the enemy, then our argumentation is, yeah, we're using new technology, but in the end, we're trying to do everything lawful, and we're going to be taxpayers. So you should definitely support us, and we create new taxpayers by elevating midwives into a status that is actually worth working for. Because right now we have midwives that are working below their opportunities because the cost of the insurance is so high that once you reach that certain threshold, you'll be broke.
Yeah. Yeah.
just to pay that insurance.
Yeah.
So, and by adding a SaaS business for a midwife, then she basically can add remote work and have more income than or increase their income through replication.
Yeah, brilliant.
So that's the idea.
Yeah, brilliant.
The communication part, streamlining some parts of it, and especially helping the absence times of the midwife, because I don't know who of you has kids, but you've seen your wife probably when she was pregnant, and if there was Google, waking up in the middle of the night, oh my God, I'm dying soon. Something that's what we try to prevent.
Very nice. I also, we are about, we already passed our mark, but if you want, I still have a question for you, Marcus and Wiebke. You touched already that during the presentation, but can you explain a little bit more how the book meeting is happening and what are the actual incentives for the people that owns the books?
Yeah.
Because I think it's very important, because also there are real life adoption opportunities there, and it's linked also to the book itself and the mission of Larissa. So I think it deserves a little bit more of clarity.
Okay, thank you. Let me start. The most value that I see in there is a little bit of a teaching on how the population grows. So through the book, we show how many people grow, or human lives grow, within the amount of 10 minutes. So if you have that book, then you can use it as a collectible, to put it with your kids, to read it with your kid. You can print it out in the end, right? So you get that right, and you can share it with your family as well. So that's what we want to make sure. Then you get access to our NFT collection that we are going to mint. It's the Genesis NFT. So we're using the end goal basically is to have a free subscription for the midwives, right? So, and with these books, you get access to in an affordable way, because the Genesis of the NFTs will have a higher pricing, and this is not feasible for everybody. But we always go for a equality approach. So if you have 10 books of the supporter edition, then you can redeem it as a discount for one of the Genesis NFTs. And you will need 4 Genesis NFTs to mint two story NFTs because we want to have two midwives talking to each other. So one midwife in a Genesis NFT would have their own story, let's say from a century, 1500s or so, right? And then the other NFT would have the story from the 1800s. And now if you merge them together, these midwives would talk to each other and tell each other how midwifery would work out if they knew what the other one knew, right? So a little bit of an education part and playful joy in there. And if you combine those two story NFTs, then you get a free subscription pass for a midwife, and you can donate it, for example, right? And the lower mint one is the access to in exchange for the supporter NFT. So all in all, 20,000 mints. I think that's the maximum that you can get on Book.io. And we try to re-share it into the market, so it's going to be accessible for a little bit of a time. But there's always a limitation to that of what we can provide, because in the end, we need to build a sustainable company that will be able to hold up for the promises that we give. So I hope that was somehow understandable.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, really.
Cool.
Also, the look of the book is amazing. I think I deserve. We need to share this video as soon as it's published on YouTube as much as we can, because it's unbelievable that your project is not widely recognized in the community. It's unbelievable. You are doing something so great that
Thank
it
you.
really deserves support.
I think, like Glenn, I see it as a chance because from what I understood, I read some of the posts in the Discord I'm following. It's hard to communicate some of these stuff, and we needed to grow into it. We've gone into the market with a really lighthearted and almost naive perception. We want to change the world. We want to do it for the better. And every rejection that we've got helped us to shape the idea and the strategy. So now we're at a point where we are working on the app itself, and we hope to be able to release the first working concept soon. So yeah,
Amazing job.
thank you, man. Appreciate it.
If anybody in the room has any other question for we close out. If not,
I just want to say, Marcus, I wish I met you guys earlier and heard about your projects, because I would have definitely featured you in my thesis, as I did with Web Mobile and Empowa. And I met with Glenn actually in January, and I just want to share one quote that he said during our meeting. It was, every time we talk about a home, we talk about a person, a family, a contribution, a life. That's the part that we want to emphasize, because that's the part that gets lost often in the statistics. We get blinded by the numbers. It doesn't mean anything until it gets personal. And that's our objective. We want to be able to link contributions to the personal stories on the ground. And I think that quote, is not just perfect for Empowa, but also for World Mobile and for you, right? Because these projects help individuals at the end of the day to improve their life, right? So, and this is for me personally what Web3 and blockchain and all this stuff is about, right? It's cool, right? I'm part of the DGen and meme space and stuff, right? But eventually, blockchain, I think, should be used for actually supporting people that don't have the same opportunities that we all enjoy, right? So I think you, all of your projects, obviously World Mobile, with internet connections, Empowa with housing, and then you with health and single moms and stuff like that. Like, this is the essence of Web3, and I think that's why blockchain will never go away, because people are in need and will be in need in the future. And we saw in the past decades that the solutions that were provided don't really work, right? They had a couple good things happening here and there, but on a big scale, it didn't work out. So I think blockchain is a new approach, a well-needed approach, and yeah, I'm just grateful that all of you guys work on the stuff like that, and yeah, shout out to you guys.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Paul.
So much.
That was a
Thank
great
you, Paul.
introduction to our little tradition, and you nailed it. So you have a free pass if you want to, but we always say we need founder tips that we can share with the community. And I would say, Glenn, why don't you start?
I think tenacity is the biggest attribute for founders, and don't give up. Keep plugging, keep going. Because to Paul's point, thank you, that sometimes exactly that we get lost. We get lost in numbers, we get lost in the detail. Excuse
Now you switched it. Now you switched it off. You muted yourself.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So we get lost in the detail and the numbers, and we exactly that. To keep motivated, those stories are very important. The human story is very, very important. So my challenge would just be keep going, because it's hard, it's not easy, but the rewards for the people on the ground are what makes it count.
100%. Adam.
Hey, yeah. My thoughts are to be just to have a relentless pursuit of your vision. To always keep that in mind, because that's why you're doing what you're doing. So just continue, to be relentless in that pursuit. That's a pretty strong.
Paul?
I think because I said something last week or last time we spoke, I want to say something else. I think focus, right? Focus on don't get sidetracked, right? Like just focus on the thing you're doing, and keep pushing until the goal is reached, and then figure out things that come with it. But don't get distracted, and just keep building, keep moving, keep supporting, keep developing, whatever it is. Yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. I have to apologize. Maybe you should have gone first because you're the lady in the room. I'm so sorry.
No worries. Should I? Yeah, I can say stay true to who you are. So you're really your story and your values are what you set apart. So it is. That's what it says.
Perfect. To finish, Davide?
Well, I'm not the best one for giving entrepreneurial tips, but I think it is
not true.
Definitely not true.
well. Hopefully, the result will change in the future, but I think that it's important to realize when you hit a wall that you can change your direction. And if something doesn't work, maybe trying something new can be very helpful, even for your mental health.
Yeah. Boundaries. Boundaries are there to be circumvented or to be jumped over. And as a founder, you will face so many boundaries, and some of them will make you think over if they are actually a roadblock for you that you can't move away. But like Glenn has described it before, sometimes they're just being grown, and you need to find a way how to make them better. I think that's how I would end it today. Thank you so much. That was a great space. It was a great honor to present alongside of you guys. And Paul, yes, I wish we would have met earlier because you're a great part of the community. I'm really, really, really happy that we have met. We've only, for you to know, we've only known Paul, I think, since about 2 or 3 months, and he's already grown so much into this community. It's just great. So, shout out to Viper Swap, a resurrected project that is being led by Paul as well, and the community. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the kind words.
You're very welcome. Cool.
Awesome, guys. It has been. Oh, I'm sorry for Felix is just joining, but we are in our closed session now. I want to thank everybody. The guests were amazing as usual. We learned a lot about the project, about the space, about the community we are in, and we know now that a different path is possible. So we can have success even when the target is to benefit the community and the wider audience. So thank you for what you shared today.
Have a great summer.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for inviting me. Good to
Bye.
see
Cheers,
you.
guys.
Cheers.
We'll see you in a few weeks.
Great
Yeah.
summer, yeah.